viral conversation here. Dan Orlovsky, kind of off the top of his head, was giving a list of, in his opinion, the best quarterbacks in the NFC. There was one name he didn't mention. This is how it went.
I would right now, if you asked me to rank the NFC quarterbacks, it's Matthew Stafford 1. I would probably put Jordan Love at 2 and Brock Purdy at 3. But if you flip-flop those guys for me, I would have no argument on that. I'd probably put Kirk Cousins at 4 and Jared Goff at 5. So Love is on his way. The 9-game stretch, he was one of the best quarterbacks in all of football. But Stafford is still at the top.
Where the hell is Dak Prescott, Dan?
Well, and that was the point. And Harry immediately jumped in. I was literally about, what you missed there is I start ripping up a piece of paper because I realized anything we were planning on doing for the rest of the show had just come to a screeching halt because he made a list of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFC and did not mention Dak Prescott. And then the whole thing just went crazy from there. Bart, reaction.
Yeah, Dan hit his head or something. I don't know what Dan was slipping on Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins could have a huge year in Atlanta if he's healthy.
He could do all that, right? And we know he's been the model of consistency. He's played a lot better than people are giving him credit for. But not to have Dak Prescott in the top 5 in the NFC is ludicrous. You talk about him being successful in multiple different systems. We don't know what's going to happen to Jordan Love now that the league has tape on him and they adjust to the adjustment. We'll see what happens there. But to say that Dak Prescott, who was an MVP candidate for most of the season last year, isn't a top 5 in the NFC is crazy.
Lewis.
I agree with Bart. It is crazy. Look, you know what's wild, man? Like Dak is one of those dudes who, you know, he's kind of like Tua when you're talking about AFC quarterbacks. People just love to hate Dak. Even if he puts up the numbers in the regular season, and I'm not just talking about yards. I'm not just talking about touchdowns, although those are spectacular too. Any advanced objective metric that you use to gauge this man's play, he's not just one of the tops in the NFC. He's one of the tops in the NFL. He was tops in the NFL last year. You can't dispute that. No, he doesn't throw no-look passes. No, he wasn't someone who was highly touted in the #1 overall pick when he came out of Mississippi State. No, they haven't gotten to the Super Bowl and won it. But to say that he's not in the mix for the top 5 in the NFC, and I love Matthew Stafford, love Purdy as much as anybody. He's right in there, and he has a strong case to say, I'm the best in the NFC. I really am. If you want to look at my statistics, yeah, I mean, we can sit here and go back and forth on this all day long, but the numbers are what they are, and the numbers don't lie. Because, again, I'm not just talking boilerplate, standard box score scouting. And this.
Of course the numbers lie. What are you talking about? The numbers lie all the time. That's why you actually watch film. That's why gambling is brutally difficult. This idea that numbers don't lie, I'm so sick of hearing that because numbers lie all the time. Okay? Was Patrick Mahomes' numbers were not great last season relative to what they've been in the past. Does that mean that Patrick Mahomes isn't a great quarterback? Answer that question right now. The numbers show that he's not that great of a quarterback. Well, but drop passes. Oh, so the numbers lie then because the numbers don't show that, do they? Exactly. So it's just such nonsense, okay? Let's look at this list. First off, last season, I don't care about what he did last season, okay? Because last season, all he did was feast against bad teams in the NFL. That's all he did was feast and juice up those numbers. Any actual good team that he faced, not so good. His numbers dropped significantly. If you actually look at Kirk Cousins and Dak Prescott's numbers, you will see that they are very similar. Very similar. But I'd make the argument that Kirk Cousins has played a lot more consistently because they're actually a notch better, okay? Matthew Stafford, he is not up there with Matthew Stafford. Just stop it with that nonsense. Matthew Stafford is a top quarterback in the NFL, okay? Who's actually balled out at the highest levels and, won a Super Bowl and was a major reason why they won the Super Bowl, okay? You would say, he doesn't do no-look passes. He did a no-look pass in the literal Super Bowl. That was one of the most amazing passes that I think I've ever seen in my life. So just stop with that, okay? Dak Prescott has never even been to an NFC championship game. We see what Jordan Love's trajectory is. He's already done something that Dak has never been. the best quarterback in the NFL for like a 10-game stretch. I understand it's a smaller sample size, but welcome to sports. That's what we have to deal with. We're dealing with uneven, unequal sample sizes. Not everyone starts at the exact same time and finishes at the exact same time. So enough with that nonsense as well. That's not a justifiable reason. So we know that what Jordan Love can do, okay? Jordan Love has had played just one playoff game better than any of Dak's playoff games. Just rocked out, beat Dak Prescott on the road in Dallas, and it wasn't even particularly close. You could see what Jordan Love was capable of, and you could see what Dak was capable of, and they were not the same. Brock Purdy has helped lead his team to 2 NFC championships and a Super Bowl, and was winning the Super Bowl against the best team, the best defense in the NFL. He left the field with the lead. Please tell me when Dak has done anything like that. Dak has never been able to be a difference maker. And yes, Brock Purdy maybe did not play these perfect playoff games last season, but when they needed him to step up against the Packers and against the Lions, he did. He absolutely, undeniably did. He did not have the moment too small for him. When Dak, on the other hand, when they asked Dak, we need you to go out and get this, what did he do? He let the clock expire. That's what he did. That's not what Brock Purdy did. Jared Goff also. Jared Goff is just because he's a pocket passer, people think that he's not good. Just because he's just like he looks more like physically like a Tom Brady than a Patrick Mahomes, that he's not this physically imposing athletic freak. We just automatically just be like, oh, he's just a quarterback. Yeah, so he's, he can throw the ball down the field and has some accuracy. But can he run around in circles? Jared Goff led one of the most potent offenses last season in the Detroit Lions. He got to the NFC Championship game and did everything to put his team in a position to win that game against the 49ers. It was not his fault why they didn't win. He was leading that team to the Super Bowl. Again, he showed that moment was not too small for him. He's done something that Dak Prescott has never done. When the team calls upon him in the playoffs, be the difference maker. Even if you win or lose, you don't always have to win to be the difference maker, to show that you can do something. Case in point, Josh Allen against the Chiefs. And that's what Jared Goff has been able to do. The Dallas Cowboys have never been able to call upon Dak in the playoffs and say, get out there and get us this play. Win or lose, just do it. He's a limiting factor. And I've defended Dak. And said I'd like to see Dak with better coaching, etc. So I get it. But he's just not. If you had to pick any of these quarterbacks right now, who would you pick? I'm picking Matthew Stafford. I'm picking Jordan Love. I'm picking Brock Purdy. Kirk Cousins, I do get that it can be a coin flip between Kirk Cousins and Dak. But I'm leaning on Kirk Cousins because Kirk Cousins' career, considering the numbers that he's been able to put up, when he's had such when you look at the numbers comparable to Dak, Dak has had the most secure, most consistent quarterback situation like in the NFL with the Dallas Cowboys. While Kirk Cousins is kind of is all over the place with a disastrous franchise of the Commanders, and then goes to the Minnesota Vikings when they have this old school hard defensive head coach with minimal weapons. And finally he gets a legitimate offensive coach, Kevin O'Connell, finally gets some weapons with Jefferson, and he's able to do magic. He's able to play out of his mind. It's just unfortunate that he's had this inconsistent short window. So that's why I give Kirk Cousins, because if you put Kirk Cousins on the Dallas Cowboys, since Dak's been there, Kirk Cousins puts up better numbers. Not a doubt in my mind. Jared Goff, he's literally been to a Super Bowl. He's been to an NFC Championship, multiple. Told you, he's the difference maker. He's not a limiting factor for his team. I'm taking him. And then we can even go further than that. Like, what other quarterbacks would you want over Dak? You can make the argument for Jalen Hurts. I know Jalen Hurts has a weird, potentially inconsistent career. But again, Jalen Hurts has shown something that Dak Prescott has never been able to do. Ball out in the playoffs at the highest level. The Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts showed that the Super Bowl was not too big for him and had one of the best performances as a quarterback in the history of the NFL. It's not my opinion, just Google it. Dak Prescott literally can't be the difference to get his team over the hump to get to an NFC championship game. They called his number multiple times in the playoffs, especially against the 49ers, and he comes up short. Now, if the 49ers went on to go win the Super Bowl, it's a little bit more defendable. You could say, well, hey, man, they ran into this juggernaut. They lost to the two-time Super Bowl champions, led by Shanahan. That's not what happened. That's not what happened. Make no mistake about it. But we want to talk about some of the numbers that Dak Prescott puts up. You mean like his playoff numbers when he demolished the Buccaneers with a 90-year-old Tom Brady, where that team was completely falling apart and had nothing going for them? They asked Tom Brady to throw the ball like 80 times. Like that team, like that's what we're going to use as a reference point as to why he's so great. That's one of his playoff wins. A broken down, beaten up Buccaneers team that was on like their last leg, had nothing left. That's okay, sure. If that's what you want to rely on, go for it. The fact that they act like it's slander, that it's crazy, they're just not looking. And they're like, oh, he was in the MVP conversation. Yeah, and he stayed healthy the entire year and didn't get the MVP. There's other quarterbacks that at least have an excuse. Jalen Hurts was going to win that MVP in 22, but he actually got injured. And there was another quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, was like, nah, I got this. I can take over from here. But they were begging for someone to take it to the next level last season to win the MVP. They couldn't figure out, was it going to be Christian McCaffrey? Is it going to be Purdy? Is it going to be Tua? Is it going to be Lamar? Is it going to be Dak? Like, who's it going to be? Dak was healthy that whole season, and he couldn't take it. I mean, they want to talk about these numbers and this offense last year. It was all against terrible teams. They just ran the score up against terrible teams. When they needed something out of him against, like, say, the 49ers, what did Dak do? That's right, nothing. Those things matter. And playoff performance matters. When you're doing these rankings, it's not regular season rankings. Obviously, MVP is. But for this, when we're just saying who's the top 5 quarterback, in the playoffs, and you have a really good team, you have a great team, who do you want as your quarterback? Matthew Stafford or Dak Stafford? Who do you want? Jordan Love or Dak? Jordan Love. Brock Purdy or Dak? Brock Purdy. Kirk Cousins or Dak? Kirk Cousins. Jared Goff or Dak? Jared Goff. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? Do you think that this is just slander, insanity, and that Dak does deserve to be not only a top 5 quarterback in the NFC, but apparently a top quarterback in the NFL as a whole? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.